Hello, this is Real World Audio, and today I'm talking about something pretty critical about loudspeaker recommendations. And I have been receiving more and more comments on what do I think about certain speakers and whether the person should buy it or not. And to be honest, I am the worst person to answer those questions and for several reasons. One of them is that if I give any recommendation, it's truly just a shot in the dark because I need to know a lot more than just whether it's a good speaker or not to make a recommendation. And I would really recommend to see Thomas and the Stereo channel. So Thomas put on a really good video for people who were asking him on loudspeaker recommendation on what sort of information they need to provide for him to be able to make a recommendation for it. I will look up that video and make a little review about it and point out what he is saying and why he is saying and why it is essential for you to provide all of that information that he is asking for, because if you do not provide it, then the recommendation will be a shot in the complete dark. So until now I have been answering these questions whether I would recommend something or not, but to tell the truth, those all of those recommendations and all of those answers of my questions were about assumptions, because I really need to know how the room sounds where those speakers are going to be. So I need to be in person in the room and hear how it behaves to be able to recommend a loudspeaker match for that. I also need to hear your system. So what your amplifiers do, what your cables do, what your sources do. I need to know what are your listening preferences, because that will also tremendously impact what you want to do. Of course, most people would say, I just want to hear the best. But in that case, if you want to hear the best, you have two roads in front of you. Or I would say you have only one road in front of you. You really need to educate yourself and learn audio and go very deep into it, because you will have to make the calls yourself. If you want the best, you have to be the one calling the shots. If you let others call the shots for you, it will be always a compromise. It will be a reflection of what they think about sound, and it's never ever going to agree with how your own preferences work. I'm in a special position because my mentor, I would say one of his greatest strengths was that he was able to truly listen to what people want from the sound, how they want to set up their system and how they want to make it sound. And then he had the uncanny ability to really steer them towards what they wanted. And most of his customers, they bought system from him based on his recommendation, and they never ever changed anything on that. So of course there are those hardcore audiophiles who got the bug and they have to, try something new and change something every single week in their system. But if you are not one of those, you just want something that sounds really, really, really darn good that you will love till you die, then that sort of recommendation is the only one you can go by, and that always requires for the person who is recommending it, to be in your room, to hear your system, and to spend time with you, to get to know you. This is the most critical part, to know the person. And like over the course of like several days, weeks, months, to get to know your personality, and then I will be able to make a recommendation that truly fits you. So what sort of music you are listening to, what sort of movies, what you like in your current sound, what you don't like in your current sound, where you want to grow. If you don't know the answer to these questions, what you like about your current sound, what you don't like, and where you want to grow, if you don't have an answer yourself, how can anyone steer you towards any direction that you will like? It's impossible. So about that, I would like to add more things, because this is similar to what Thomas shared on his video. In his video about recommendations, I would add one more thing to what Thomas is saying. Is that if you ask my recommendations, I am making these videos about analyzing loudspeaker behavior and giving you my thoughts about them for the reason that you learn about it. You learn how loudspeakers work. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? I mean, what are the strengths and weaknesses of each of the implementation I'm showing you? And how does that translate to measurements, and how can you interpret those measurements? So I'm teaching all of you on how to understand loudspeakers and to figure and to be able to figure out for yourself whether a specific loudspeaker, is it a great value, or they just asking a lot of money for something that's not worth to pay, or are they asking very little money for something truly fantastic? But all of these cases I am showing you so that you learn and you truly understand there's not such a thing as a perfect loudspeaker or something that I would buy. Even though I'm showing you all of those loudspeakers, I myself would not buy any of them. And it's for this very simple reason, that once you buy any loudspeaker, if you tweak it, if you modify it, that's when their strength will come out. And basically, whatever you are buying, it's just the raw material. It's just kind of like a dough that you have to bake yourself to make it truly edible. Because for me, I would say anything commercial that I would buy or I have bought, it didn't, it's, I would not listen to it, okay? So maybe I would listen to it like once a month, turn it on just for the sake of hearing something different. But as my main speakers, I wouldn't keep any of them. Well, there's a few exceptions, maybe like Wundersteins. I would and I have kept them, but also their crossovers were a little bit modified. Anyway, what I want to tell all of you is that if you want truly great loudspeakers and if you want to please yourself, then you will have to go to the route of building loudspeakers for you. That's my recommendation. And of course, very few of you are willing to go that way, to build your loudspeakers, because it seems to be a lot of work. But believe me, even though that you have to put in a lot into learning loudspeaker building and a lot into experimenting and working things out, but with that road you will reach your goal. You will get the sound you want and you dream of. And if you just are on the plane of looking for loudspeakers, buying them, then you will constantly be flipping them and not getting happy. And 20 years from now you will be still rotating loudspeakers and watching reviews what to buy because you still haven't found it. If you start right now looking into how to build your own loudspeakers, within 5 years at most you will have a pair of loudspeakers that you can live with for the rest of your life. So that's truly my advice on this subject, on loudspeaker recommendations. And of course, in the beginning, you don't need to go all out. If you have a pair of loudspeakers, you can start modifying its crossover, internal wiring. That will take it a long way from how it sounds out of the box. But to truly refine it, you will need to build a cabinet for it and then put them in a new cabinet. And once you are going for that step of putting them in a new cabinet, then I can circle back and tell you guys that it's much cheaper, much more affordable, and much better just to start everything from scratch, to get your own drivers and put them in a cabinet you are building. It's going to be much cheaper than cannibalizing a loudspeaker, and you will be able to control for much more, and then you can choose the drivers you need for that cabinet that's suitable for you, instead of using those drivers which were designed for a specific cabinet, for a specific sound. And one more thing about recommendations. Of course, everyone has noticed that I have a trend on my channel. So when I'm not mentioning what kind of sound I am recommending, or when I talk about audio gear, and I tell you that this is something that I found is the most promising, or like strategies on ideas or directions to develop towards, then my listening preferences and what I am recommending for are the ones that a concert violinist would give you. Okay, so if you are a person who has the hearing and the training and the skills of a violinist, then if you are a violinist and you are following my channel, then this is truly for you. And you will be able, if you just follow what speakers I recommend to build, what amplifiers I recommend to build, you will be in heaven. Okay, because at any price, if you are looking to buy things, there is almost zero chance that you will find anything even remotely acceptable to reproduce the sound of a violin. It's almost an impossible quest to find today. And of course, not just violin, but I am mentioning violin because it is the singular acoustic instrument that is the hardest to reproduce in the Western musical repertoire. And also for violin, it is a natural instrument, so I'm not listening to processed, edited sound. I'm going for pure, unadulterated, explicit, natural sound. Okay, and curiously, this direction, when you build to reproduce the sound of the most pure instrument, then your system will be able to play anything. Truly, this is what I have noticed, is that I can listen to movies, I can listen to rock music, I can listen to even techno music or electronic music that is computer generated, and any kind, truly. and it sounds better than I ever imagined or I ever heard them sound. And simply because when you have that direct connection, that the pure system, then it will give you the best of everything, really. And those solutions what commercial products give you, they try to go for very serious colorations most of the time, because they have to well, I don't want to start on the becauses, because then this would turn into a 5-hour long video. So I think it's just better to stop right now. It is long as it is. So I hope I little bit helped everyone with this. So thank you. Bye bye.